guys? Alright, well today we're going to continue the Tyranid Armies overview, and today we're going to look at swarm armies. Basically, swarm armies are exactly what it is, just tons and tons of models, okay? I pretty much consider a swarm army probably like 100 plus models. You can find some like balanced armies that tend to be like 100 models in like the mid range, just because you can get so many spine gaunts for so cheap. So, but swarm armies have varying levels of tactics, but they always have pretty much one thing in common. They have a unit that's very fast in front that's pretty much guaranteed to get a second turn charge, because if they don't get a second turn charge, they're pretty much dead, because they can get shot up and those units won't be able to tie up the enemy for the rest of the wave. So essentially there's two primary waves which are the most important. So the first wave usually consists of hormagaunts, which are the most popular. Gargoyles are much more effective at doing that, just for the simple matter that they get the 12-inch move, so they're guaranteed, to get there. So they could probably reach an enemy that's, not just 24 inches away. It could, reach a little bit farther in case like you had really bad fleet rolls for 2 turns, with hormagaunts. But anyway, the main choice is pretty much hormagaunts and gargoyles, and you can choose ravengers, but ravengers people usually don't take them as like in the core of the army. When you deploy, when I mean core, like when you deploy on a board, say this is the length of the board, the core is the middle of the army, and then the flank is the right side or left side, right, depending on which side you think you want to put your flanking force. But if you put models in the core of the army, what they do is they run up, they charge in the second turn, they block line of sight. First turn, everything moves up, as far as it can. That's as simple pretty much as usually what almost everything happens. Pretty much in every NID army, first turn everything moves forward. So except for biovores, I would imagine. But anyway, so that's pretty much what happens first turn. Second turn, your faster units charge, they block line of sight getting into combat, and they basically act as tar units, hopefully killing a couple models, as you can, and waiting for the rest of the army. And basic tactics with the swarm army is it's not so much geared at taking down tanks, but it's pretty much wiping infantry off the board and then dealing with tanks the best you can. Now this tactic is actually quite effective, as the objective grabbers and like other things and lots of different scenarios require that you have infantry, and you can't just have a tank. But if you're playing victory points or like corners and stuff like that, you still got to deal with the tanks. But the idea is you take out their infantry pretty much first, and that's that. So you have faster units in the thing, and then you also have a flanking force which of fast units. And typically what happens is behind that fast unit you also may have an accompanying like specialist that's also fast, like maybe a hive tyrant with wings, or maybe warriors with wings, or maybe ravengers that can also keep up the speed. But it depends on if you want to choose synapse or no, and then to keep the synapse up with your models. Otherwise you have to leave trailers, trailing models to link them back, and such. So if you can do that, you have like a flanking force, say on the right side of maybe like a winged hive tyrant, and then some gargoyles, and then they all fly up 12. So essentially what happens is pretty much anything your Hormagaunts could they'd be pretty much scared about the Hive Tyrant, with wings, because that's pretty much the first priority in any army, and the Gargoyles, and so a lot of firepower would be focused on them, leaving your Hormagaunts free to charge, and then you can pretty much, what the idea is, that you crush the flank with your Hive Tyrant and your Gargoyles, and maybe a couple Ravengers, and your Hormagaunts are covering the middle till the rest of your army gets up in turn 3 or 4, while so eventually the one side starts to crush, and then the middle's holding the whole time pretty much because you have so many models, and then your other specialists will get there turn 4, turn 5, and then they'll be able to punch, or maybe turn 3 depending on how fast they can get there, and start punching holes in the middle, in the core of their army, and then meanwhile hopefully your flank is crushing their flank, so then they all meet in the middle around 5 or 6, which tends to be the similar tactic. So you can just go through infantry and pretty much crush anything. Swarm armies just attack in waves. The hardest thing about swarm armies is coordinating attacks with the models that actually do the real damage, which would be rending, because you're pretty much a close combat geared army with shooting capabilities. It's nice when you can shoot, but you're relying on holding up the model so close combat specialists can take them down and break the units and the squads down. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, sorry guys. So that would be that, and just gotta have a lot of models. People usually take Termagaunts or Spine Gaunts. They usually don't take Devil Gaunts. They usually have some type of fast sun-ups, and that's pretty much like the swarm. I'm sorry if it's not in detail. I didn't make an actual outline this time on my computer of what I was going to talk about, but I thought it was pretty straightforward. Any other questions? I'm sure people can post comments on what they do with their swarm armies. But remember, the idea is to outnumber them pretty much 2 to 1. Is what I don't really consider like a swarm army, because you can outnumber 2 to 1 easily in a balanced list. I would say 2.5 to 3 is probably the preferred true swarm army list. All right. Most important things in swarm armies is deployment, use of cover, and sun-ups, because you don't want to run out. All right. So those are the 3 things to consider. I'm not going to do any army building, army list building, because pretty much you take what you want. But it always tends to have lots of gaunts in one form or another, and then whatever pick and choosing you guys want. Alright, take care guys, hope that helped.